So, hello everyone. Hi, this is Marla from No Regrets. And today I've got a very special guest. This is Jason from And Vinyly. And I came across And Vinyly when I was writing a blog on 8 things to do with a person's ashes. And yeah, I have to say, I've never seen anything quite like this before. So I was like, right, let's get in touch. So yeah, welcome, Jason.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for coming on.
No problem.
So what's it all about then?
Well, what we do is we press people's ashes into real vinyl records, onto which people tend to have either their favorite soundtrack or music that they like, or recordings, for example, from special occasions. It might even be an answer phone message, for example. We do encourage people using their voice as much as possible, because that will mean most to the family now and in the future, of course. I think songs are quite sort of personal things, which would be great for the person to listen to themselves, but obviously they're not around. So, someone that a loved one might like music that you don't like at all. So where we can, we try to encourage people to use recordings from maybe family events, or even, like I say, voicemail messages that they've left on people's phones are good ones. So you can put any audio you like basically on each side, or one or two sides of the vinyl. And then you've got the label in the center, of course, as well, where, in the center of the record, there's a paper label. So you can put images or written words on there on both sides. And then you've got the inner sleeve, which sometimes people choose to print as well, but it's a bit more money. And then the outer sleeve, of course, as well. And so often people will do, I've got an example here, collages of people, so you've got the front and the back. So that's like a vinyl sleeve, a record sleeve. And then on the vinyl, you can see, I don't know whether you can see on there, we do clear vinyl most of the time, so that you can actually see the ashes in there. So that's there. And then you've got the paper label in the middle of here, of course, that can be printed on as well, with photographs or whatever anybody wants, really. So it's quite a good process to go through. People sometimes take quite a long time doing it, and they work with Harriet, who works with us, who's a graphic designer. So they can either do the artwork themselves onto templates, or we'll work with them, and Harriet will work to help them establish a brief of what they want and what they like to achieve. And we make suggestions, or sometimes they're very clear about what they want. And then she'll sort of put the artwork together for the sleeves and the labels. And then we do the same with the audio. And then we get them to sign off and say, yeah, we're happy with that. That's whether people are arranging this for themselves for when they eventually pass away, or for people who've got ashes of a loved one, whether they've requested it before they've passed away, or whether it's just something they've had ashes for a number of years and haven't known what to do with it. So we do a sort of big range.
Wow. And you mentioned a really, I don't know if it's important. Yeah, like an important point about hearing somebody's voice, because like when my mum died, that was 1985, we didn't actually have any recordings of her voice. And I mean, we had the old, remember like the old cine films, so but there's no sound. So I can't remember what her voice sounds like, and that would just be amazing to have.
Exactly. And I mean, nowadays, of course, there's people think, well, they say, well, I haven't got anything, didn't record them. You say, well, you probably do, whether it's an answer for even just their message, or them having left you a message, or like I say, the audio off of films you may have taken on your phone. So there's a lot now. People have got lots of material like that. And I certainly, I would love to have, a record where I could play my great-great-grandfather speaking. It's probably as close as we'll get to time travel, I guess. You could see it. But it's nice because they're actually moving their voice is actually moving the air in the room you're in. So there's quite a it's quite, you could see it's quite profound in a way. So I really like that idea. And although it's a bit more difficult, sometimes it takes people a bit longer. They have to find their bits of audio, and depending on how soon after the person's passed away, it might make it more difficult. Sometimes people say, I'm doing it, I really want to, but I'm finding it a bit difficult at the moment. And then it maybe takes a few months. Other people say it was the best thing they did because it made them, you know, sort of really do that. Whereas before they were maybe nervous to, for example, or, you know, they were worried they'd be upset. So I think the sort of process of with themselves and with family and friends, choosing the imagery, choosing maybe the audio together is all good. You know, stuff people enjoy doing, and so sometimes it takes a long time, so we never rush anyone, but it, you know, people tend to say, you know, actually I want to look a bit deeper now and maybe look and see if I can find something from that time or whatever. Sometimes people as well record, you know, maybe things that they've about the family history as well. We had, there was a documentary on one of the records we did with a chap called John Hobson, and he'd recorded his mum. He'd had the foresight. I mean, he had been sitting on these mini discs for a few years, but before she got very unwell, he just was asking her about his family and when he was a child and how they'd moved to where they were. And so that record is like a real amazing historical actual record of the family, which is great and brilliant thing to pass down.
Amazing. And I was going to say, oh, totally forgotten. And how on earth did you get into this? What gave you the idea?
I think it's a mixture of things, really. I've been making records myself for 20, 30 years now. But at the time, in 2006 or 2005, I'd already been doing it for 15 years or something. And my mum, out of the blue, got a job at a funeral director's, not something that she'd ever done before. And she just kept saying to me, look, you know, you need to get your affairs sorted out and think about what do you want to happen? You know, you've got young daughters, and, you know, I was like, I don't want to, what do you mean? Don't talk to me about this. I don't want to think about it. You know, I'm only so at this age or whatever. And I was surprised how she kept pushing. She said, there's lots of people your age, you'll be surprised, you know, how many people come through here your age. And she kept pushing, and I really didn't like, I almost got angry, to be honest. And then when I started to force myself to think about what I'd do and how I'd arrange things and how I'd like to be remembered, or etc., I started to ask friends as well. And the reaction I got was shocking quite often. People did not want to talk about it. Some people even getting quite angry. So I've started to find it quite interesting. And I found the more I thought about it, and actually accepted something that I'd sort of grown up resisting thinking about, actually, it didn't feel dark at all. It was the opposite of what I was expecting. And it actually made me start appreciating things more, you know, thinking, well, hang on a minute, don't want to waste my time. Maybe I'll get on and do that now, you know. So I found it quite positive. And so I thought, well, what do I want to do? What do I want when I'm gone? And I'd seen I think it was Hunter S. Thompson who'd put his ashes into fireworks. Obviously, there's a number of people doing that now, but I think he was the first I'd ever heard of doing it. And I thought it was a pretty cool idea. And I thought, well, what would I want to do? And I thought, well, my music's something I'd like to be remembered by. And don't really know. I just sort of came up with the idea, and so started trying to make some records with different materials in to see how I would do it and if it would work. And to establish how to do it and make sure I'll be confident that it works. And then I just did a website, which was really part of it was never meant to be a business at all. It was me thinking about what I wanted to do. And the way I kind of got it down was by creating a website when they were Flash back in those days. They're called the software that was used. And a friend of mine who was pretty good on that helped me do it, and we had a bit of fun with it. Really, it was a bit more like a kind of, I mean, it wasn't an art piece, but it was more along arty than trying to make a commercial enterprise, if you like.
Yeah.
So, and it was helping me to think about things I didn't want to think about. So having a bit of fun with it. So, you know, and Vinyly is a bit of a pun on, and finally on the final, you know, the last
Brilliant.
bit.
I love it.
And then, you know, we went as far as doing, I mean, they're terrible really, but things like Live On From Beyond the Groove and things like that. So thinking
your email address as well, The Undertaker.
Yes, I know. So it was all like that. And I did this website and ended up with this thing, and then it just got picked up and went crazy, and there were people all over the world contacting, and
Wow.
you know, then people started asking me to do it, and I was like, crikey, I wasn't expecting that. So it was a bit nerve-wracking at first, because obviously you've got quite responsibility, and you know, you've got to. I was just nervous that I'd be able to deal with people correctly, and happily it's gone very well, and everyone's been very happy, and it's sort of grown and grown from there, really.
Incredible. Wow. Yeah. Wow.
So I wasn't expecting to be doing it, that's for sure. It was never a plan, but I am now.
Fantastic. And all that came from like looking at the end of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's like,
yeah.
You know, we spend a lot of our years like, no, I don't want to look. Exactly. But actually, when we do, what opens up can be absolutely amazing, and we can't foresee that unless we actually.
No. Yeah. No, I mean, I think we mentioned briefly when you called the other day. I mean, when I was first of all shocked at my own resistance, and then everybody around me, I realized that, you know, I'd been incorrectly. And I think most of the people that I know, we're lucky to be brought up, you know, in peace. In peacetime, there's no war or anything, at least where we're living. And I was sheltered from it. You know, when my grandparents died, I might not have been told for a few days or weeks or whatever. Whereas back in my grandparents' day, in this village in Switzerland, for example, they were often surrounded by it all the time, and they'd be reminded of it. They would see it very much more around them, and I think it was much more enriching for their lives than it is to pretend it's not going to happen, because it is.
So, they're probably preparing the body and
exactly. I mean, I mean, you know, that everyone was involved in that, where they'd be around that, and you know, people now in our culture are not at all, and it's all sort of dealt with out of view, and most people probably wouldn't like the thought of it, you know. So it's very different.
That's what I was reminded of earlier when you were saying about people getting involved and they select the audio and the photos.
Exactly.
Really, I find that a real kind of therapeutic kind of,
I think so,
you know, like a way to process grief. It's like
it is. That was a complete, you know, it wasn't, again, like I said, it wasn't planned anyway, but these are the sorts of things we're discovering doing this, that it's a nice sort of structure within which to do that, which is, it's nice. And at the end of it, you've got a memento which you can have a number of for pretty much the same price as having one made, because obviously vinyl records, normally they're made in their thousands. You make your initial stampers, and you get the artwork ready, and then you print high numbers of them. We don't with this, but you may as well get 10 or 20 done. It's gonna cost you hardly any more than having one done, and that way everybody in the family can have one, and also close friends who are often spent a lot of the time, you know, very often more than the family, even family members.
Sure.
You may have spent all day at work with them and evenings socializing, etc., for 10, 20 years. And often they don't tend to get something to remember their good friend by. So it's nice in that respect, because everybody can be involved in it and all get something that they can remember them by. And we use very small amounts of the ashes. I mean, it's between 1/2 and 1 teaspoon per record. So there's still a vast majority left, so people can keep them in an urn or scatter them, or, you know, do whatever else they like to do. That it doesn't use all of it.
Yeah, and obviously it doesn't I imagine it putting a bump in the record.
Well, yeah, I mean, it
captured it.
definitely, when you make records, you do not want to have dust or anything like that near it. So
Mm,
obviously, I had to develop the way of getting materials into the vinyl rather than on it. But at the same time, you don't mind a bit of that happening, because that's them, you know. So
yeah,
sometimes people have a track of silence, so they can just hear the little pops and crackles, and they have it maybe in the center of one side of the record, so they might have some talking and speaking and a bit of music, and in the middle just some silence, so sort of contemplative time and just listening to the pops and crackles.
yeah. And knowing that's their loved one. That's
Yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
I love that.
Some people have had fun as well with the last groove. You can lock the last groove so that it repeats. So people have used that as well for different things that have, you know, whether there be sort of family jokes or something
Right.
they said a lot, or you know, we're always saying, for example. So that people have used that sort of that capability as well. We can do.
Fantastic. Wow. Wow. Have you had any famous musicians?
We've done quite a few, quite well known. I mean, there's a documentary on the website where I'm doing one with the lead singer of a very large big band now called Idols, who and it was actually his mum's ashes we put in a record.
Oh,
And yeah, I've done a number of other ones, but they're not ones they advertise, so can't really mention it. But yes, there's a few who have done that.
yeah. Oh, I can imagine. Wow. Oh, you're international.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's definitely international. But the best ones are always sort of, you know, private individuals. I think they're really amazing. They really love them. They enjoy the process, and it's often helpful. And also, all the people who get one as well are all, you know, they all really like them and enjoy them. So it's really satisfying like that. And yeah,
Mm.
they're the best ones to do.
Oh, that's so good. It's so unique as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I came across your website, I was like, wow, I've never heard of that before.
I know it's
Amazing.
you know, it surprises me, but hey, it's
Oh,
happening. Yeah,
wow. And I guess so you've got yours booked then.
yeah. Well, mine it's obviously an ongoing project, which will be how it is when the time comes. It will be like that. It's not fully decided. It changes from day to day, week to week. It all changes, and hopefully it will be in a good position when the day actually comes. So I'd like how it is at that moment, because there's been a few times where I would have gone, oh, I'm glad it wasn't like that now.
Right.
But we'll see. But yeah, I mean, it changes every day.
Sure. Yeah.
The good
Wow.
thing about planning it for yourself actually is that if you know what you want on there, is you can do it all while you're alive, of course. Plan it, you can get everything made, you can get all the sleeves, the labels made, have all the audio ready. We can even make the pressing plates. We can even make a few copies of the records exactly as they are that play, but obviously without your ashes in it. So it's all done and ready and paid for when the time comes, which is kind of unusual as well.
Yeah. I mean, people prepay for other things, don't they,
Yeah,
before they
yeah,
die?
yeah,
So
yeah.
why
Well,
not
it means
that?
they're not leaving it on their family to pay, I guess, in that regard, which is handy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people as well have sort of, because they can get more people involved, because everyone can get one of these. They often, you know, you'll find the whole family sort of help. They all chip in to do it as well. So
Mm,
that's useful too.
amazing. Wow. Oh. And what did you do before this? So you were a musician before?
Yeah, I've been released. I mean, I still do music as well, and obviously, and Vinyly keeps me very busy now. But I've worked in my family business before that when I was younger, and mainly music most of the time, which has been my sort of passion and what I do most of the time, and continue to. But it's more of the music side's more of a hobby now than you know,
Mm,
it's not something I pursue to make a living from, but I'm still very involved in it and releasing records and things like that. So, and well, up until the last couple of years, we're still going and doing gigs as well, but they've obviously gone a bit quiet the last couple of years.
Right, yeah.
So yeah.
Wow. Wow, Jason, thank you so much for meeting me today. It's just,
No problem.
yeah, it's been really enlightening. So yeah, thank you.
No problem. Nice to speak to you.
Yeah, you too. And yeah, I'll see you again sometime,
Yeah.
no doubt. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
You.
Bye.
Bye.